Most people think conflict is loud. They think power is proven by volume. They think winning arguments require aggression. That's why they lose. The most dominant individuals in history rarely raised their voices. They didn't explain themselves. They didn't chase validation. They ended conflict before it escalated, using control, timing, and psychological pressure. Machiavelli understood this centuries ago. Authority is not asserted, it is felt. Today, you'll learn the first controlled reply that silently terminates conflict, without insults, without emotion, and without giving your opponent power. Chapter 1. Silence as a Weapon. The reply that forces submission. Silence is not weakness. Silence is a mirror, and most people cannot stand what it reflects. When someone challenges you, disrespects you, or attempts to provoke you, their goal is not truth. Their goal is reaction. They want emotional confirmation that they've affected you. The moment you respond impulsively, you've already lost leverage. Machiavelli warned against unnecessary exposure. He understood that power decays the moment it becomes predictable. Speech, when uncontrolled, reveals intent. Silence conceals it. Here is the first controlled reply that ends conflict instantly. You say nothing, you pause, you observe. This is not passive silence. This is deliberate absence of reaction. Psychologically, silence creates 3 effects. First, it disrupts expectation. Most people are conditioned to conversational rhythm: statement, response, escalation. When you refuse to participate, their mental script collapses. The aggressor is forced to fill the void, often exposing insecurity or over-explaining. Every extra word they speak weakens their position. Second, silence shifts the power dynamic. By not responding, you implicitly communicate, "This does not deserve my energy." Humans instinctively associate value with attention. When you withdraw attention, the other party feels diminished, even if they don't consciously understand why. Third, silence induces self-doubt. The aggressor begins questioning their own dominance. Did I go too far? Did I miscalculate? Am I being ignored because I'm insignificant? This internal spiral is far more destructive than any verbal comeback. Here's where most people fail. They break silence too early. True control requires timing. You let the pause stretch just long enough to become uncomfortable, but not awkward. This is critical. The silence should feel intentional, not confused. Your posture remains relaxed, your facial expression neutral. No defensive body language, no nervous gestures. Only after the other person finishes or begins rambling do you respond. And when you do, your reply is short. Something like, "Are you finished?" Or, "If that's all, we're done here." Notice what's happening. You didn't argue, you didn't defend, you didn't explain. You framed the interaction as already concluded. Machiavelli emphasized that control comes from framing reality, not reacting to it. By responding this way, you define the moment as resolved, whether the other person agrees or not. Why this terrifies people? Because it removes their leverage. Most conflicts thrive on emotional exchange. When that exchange is denied, the aggressor feels powerless. They either retreat, escalate irrationally, making themselves look weak, or comply. This tactic is especially effective against loud personalities, narcissistic challengers, people who rely on intimidation, individuals seeking dominance through confrontation. However, silence must be earned. If you are constantly silent but lack presence, it reads as avoidance. Authority silence works only when paired with calm body language, minimal movement, direct but relaxed eye contact, a sense of finality. Silence is not hiding. Silence is commanding the pace. Machiavelli never advised constant confrontation. He advised strategic restraint. Knowing when not to speak separates rulers from followers. When you master silence, people begin to measure their words around you.
They sense consequences, even if none are spoken. This is how conflicts end before they begin. Chapter 2. The Psychology of Calm Replies, Turning Threat into Control. Conflict is a test of dominance, not truth. Most people mistake aggression for power, believing that loud voices, clever words, or emotional outbursts secure authority. They are wrong. Real control comes from calm replies that unsettle your opponent, reveal their weakness, and subtly establish your supremacy. The human brain is wired to react. Threat triggers fight, flight, or freeze responses. When someone attacks you verbally or challenges your ideas, their nervous system expects a reaction, an emotional surge, a defensive argument, or a defensive justification. By staying calm, you violate this expectation. You remove the fuel that powers the conflict. The aggressor becomes confused, exposed, and increasingly frustrated. This chapter focuses on the psychological mechanisms behind calm replies and why they terrify the reactive mind. Why calm replies work. Uncertainty creates fear. When someone expects a reaction and receives none, they experience cognitive dissonance. Their brain struggles to interpret the lack of engagement. In practical terms, this produces discomfort. Aggressors instinctively scan for signals of dominance. Silence or neutrality forces them to question their position. They feel off balance. Uncertainty is psychologically destabilizing, and people dislike feeling destabilized more than being proven wrong. Control of narrative. Emotional reactions allow others to frame your story. They define the pace, escalate the tension, and manipulate the power dynamic. Calm replies take back the narrative. By responding in measured, neutral tones, or sometimes not at all, you dictate the terms of the exchange. You convert a potential threat into your demonstration of authority. Shortness signals authority. Brevity communicates confidence. Short, precise responses are interpreted as self-possession. Long-winded explanations or attempts to justify yourself expose doubt, signaling to others that they have leverage. A calm, succinct reply like, "Noted," or "That's your perspective," achieves maximum control while minimizing exposure. Emotional reflection. Calm replies function as mirrors. They reflect the aggressor's emotional instability back onto them without confrontation. A hostile tone meets a composed demeanor. Sarcasm meets neutrality. The contrast highlights the aggressor's volatility while reinforcing your stability. People subconsciously judge the reactive person as weaker, and you appear untouchable. The tactical application of calm replies. Timing is everything. The most potent moment for a calm reply is after the other person's peak aggression, when they expect escalation. Pause deliberately, let them fill the silence, let their frustration build. Only then interject with a controlled statement. Examples of tactical calm replies. "If that's all, we're done." "I see you feel strongly about that." "Noted." Each is simple, emotionally neutral, and carries authority. Each denies the aggressor validation, forcing them to internally question their position. The hidden power. Calm replies don't just stop conflict, they retrain the observer's perception. Others notice who remains composed and who reacts. The composed individual naturally rises in social hierarchies. Aggressors, meanwhile, retreat silently, realizing their usual tactics fail against you. Over time, people approach you with respect or fear. Both achieve dominance without a single emotional outburst. This is how conflicts end before they begin.
Chapter 3. The 7 Controlled Reply Archetypes, Mastering Psychological Shutdowns. Conflict ends not when words are exchanged, but when dominance is silently established. By this chapter, you already understand silence and calm as weapons. Now, it's time to systematize your responses. Machiavelli himself would argue that power is methodical, predictable in execution, unpredictable in effect. Controlled replies are your tools. Each one terminates arguments, redistributes authority, and signals that you are untouchable. We define 7 archetypes of controlled replies, each engineered to neutralize aggression without escalation. These replies aren't polite. They aren't conciliatory. They command attention while stripping leverage from your opponent. Understanding and applying them requires discipline. Misuse exposes weakness. Archetype 1. The minimalist. Minimal words, maximum effect. Respond with a single, neutral term that closes discussion. Examples. Noted. Understood. The aggressor expects debate. Instead, they meet stillness.
This reply forces them to reassess their position and often retreat. Less is more. Every additional word is a surrender of control. Archetype 2, the reflector. Mirror the tone or content without emotional engagement. When someone attacks you, reflect it neutrally. You clearly have strong feelings about that. This exposes their instability while presenting you as stable and composed. People react to perceived emotional weakness more than logic. Reflecting their intensity demonstrates your dominance through restraint. Archetype 3, the redirector. Shift focus to irrelevance or higher ground. Example: we'll revisit this when there's actual data. Aggressors are often invested in emotional satisfaction. Redirecting subtly removes their energy and gives you psychological upper hand, while keeping the exchange factual and controlled. Archetype 4, the questioner. Controlled probing questions force the aggressor to justify themselves. Example: what outcome are you aiming for? This creates cognitive strain in the opponent, exposing gaps and forcing introspection. Aggressors rarely enjoy self-examination, making this an indirect power play. Archetype 5, the reframer. Reinterpret the statement in a way that neutralizes threat. Example: interesting perspective. I'll consider that. You acknowledge without validating aggression. You set the narrative. You dictate the lens through which the interaction occurs. Archetype 6, the finalizer. This is the conclusive reply signaling the argument's end. Example: that's settled then. It communicates that you control the pace and boundary of the discussion. Aggressors cannot escalate without breaking social rules, and they feel compelled to comply. Archetype 7, the silent signal. Use body language to assert dominance without words. Subtle gestures, measured breathing, calm posture, and eye contact often terminate conflict before verbal engagement. Silence becomes a physical presence, an invisible shield, a psychological blockade. Strategic implementation. The real power comes in mixing archetypes strategically. Each reply is like a chess move. Deploy the minimalist, then the reflector, then the finalizer. You are in complete control. Opponents can't anticipate your rhythm, yet each action is methodical. Over time, this trains your environment to respect boundaries. Conflict is not just resolved, it never escalates in the first place. Controlled replies are the foundation of Machiavellian social warfare. They are calculated, cold, and efficient. Applied consistently, they make you untouchable. Respected, feared, and unchallenged. The silent observer becomes the ultimate authority. Chapter 4. Deepening the threat. Social erasure in real life. Power is silent, subtle, and invisible until it strikes. Most people live under the illusion that respect or authority is granted through effort, kindness, or compliance. Machiavelli knew the truth. Those who fail to assert control, even silently, are quietly erased from influence, relevance, and memory. Social erasure is not always dramatic. It rarely comes with overt hostility. Instead, it unfolds slowly, an almost imperceptible marginalization that chips away at your status, your opportunities, and your sphere of influence. It is the natural consequence of failure to employ psychological dominance. How people are erased. Ignored in conversations. The moment you stop asserting boundaries, your input is undervalued. Meetings, social gatherings, and professional discussions proceed as if your opinions don't matter. Even when you speak, your words are quickly dismissed or interrupted. People don't notice consciously. They simply learn that your presence carries little weight. Opportunities are withdrawn. Those who fail to assert authority silently lose access to resources, collaborations, and advancement. Promotions, invitations, and recognition often go to others who demonstrate subtle command. Power and influence are not negotiated. They are claimed by those who enforce their presence. Perception of weakness. Humans instinctively detect vulnerability. Subtle cues, hesitation, nervous tone, over-explaining, or seeking approval signal weakness. Others exploit it, consciously or not.
Over time, repeated exploitation erodes your social identity. You become invisible, not because of external attacks, but because you allow them to define your value. Historical examples of erasure. Machiavelli recorded countless examples where rulers, generals, and advisors were sidelined or removed simply because they failed to assert presence effectively. Advisors who never contradicted the prince respectfully were ignored. Soldiers who hesitated in decisive moments were reassigned or forgotten. Ambitious courtiers who flattered without strategy were supplanted by those who mastered silent influence. In all cases, the victims were not punished overtly, they were systematically erased through neglect, lack of recognition, and social invisibility. Modern social erasure. Today, the mechanism is similar, though subtler. At work, the quiet, submissive colleague is overlooked in favor of someone who subtly dominates meetings. In social circles, the attention seeker fades while the calm observer commands respect. In online spaces, voices that react impulsively are drowned out, while the composed strategist quietly sets trends. The lesson is clear: reactive behavior invites erasure. Calm, controlled, and strategic replies are not optional, they are survival tools in modern hierarchies. The psychological trigger. Humans unconsciously measure dominance. Social erasure occurs when they sense lack of control or unresolved tension in your responses. Silence, brevity, and subtle authority prevent this. They make people recognize your presence as non-negotiable. When you fail to apply these principles, your ideas are overlooked. Your contributions are undervalued. Your network subtly distances itself. This is the slow, lethal effect of weak psychological positioning. The strategic response. Preventing erasure begins with understanding the mechanism. Conflict is not only verbal, it is social, relational, and perceptual. By controlling replies, asserting calm authority, and strategically deploying silence, you signal to everyone that you cannot be ignored. Machiavelli's principle is timeless. Those who respect themselves command respect. Those who fail are erased, regardless of their knowledge, talent, or effort. The battlefield is not always visible. Often it is social, relational, and psychological. Controlled replies create presence. Presence prevents erasure. And erasure, once initiated, is near impossible to reverse.
Chapter 5. Strategic Response. Enforcing Internal Authority. By now, you understand that social erasure is not accidental. It happens to those who fail to control reactions, assert boundaries, and project internal authority. This chapter is about taking deliberate, tactical action to reverse that trend, ensuring you are treated as someone who commands respect, without begging, arguing, or performing. Internal authority is the invisible force that forces others to recalibrate their perception of you. It is a combination of mindset, behavior, and presence. When executed correctly, it compels compliance and recognition, silently establishing dominance. Step 1. Mental calibration. Before any outward action, you must establish absolute internal control. This begins with recognizing that your value is self-determined, not granted by others. Stop seeking validation, approval, or reassurance. Each time you feel the urge to justify, explain, or defend, pause. Ask, does this serve my authority or undermine it? Your internal state dictates how others perceive you. Calm, deliberate, and unshakable individuals project power without force. Every micro-expression, tone, and gesture communicates dominance or weakness. Internal authority is cultivated by discipline of thought, emotional regulation, and strategic detachment. Step 2. Behavioral enforcement. Internal authority must manifest externally. Controlled replies, silence, and subtle cues enforce boundaries without confrontation. Brevity. Respond with short, decisive statements. Avoid over-explaining. Timing. Reply after the other person's peak emotional energy. Let their frustration escalate internally while you remain composed. Consistency. Repetition is critical. Every controlled reply reinforces a pattern, training others to recognize your authority as non-negotiable. This behavioral discipline signals that you are not reactive, not swayed by opinion, and cannot be manipulated emotionally. People begin to treat you differently without realizing why. Your presence alone becomes commanding. Step 3.
Environment control. Authority is relational. Those around you constantly test boundaries. Strategic placement and management of attention are essential. Surround yourself with individuals who respect or fear your presence. Avoid those who consistently undermine your position. In group settings, allow others to react first, then assert dominance through calm intervention. By controlling your environment, you amplify your authority while minimizing challenges. Social hierarchies are fluid. Those who enforce boundaries with precision rise naturally. Step 4. Silence and observation. Silence is one of the most effective tools in the Machiavellian arsenal. Observe before acting. Silence creates anticipation. Others hesitate to act recklessly against you. Discomfort. Those seeking reaction are destabilized. Authority. Your restraint communicates mastery over self and situation. The combination of silence, observation, and selective reply positions you as the center of power, forcing recalibration of others' expectations. Step 5. Reinforcing through action. Words alone are insufficient. Your actions must mirror your authority. Follow through on promises and consequences consistently. Project calm decisiveness in all interactions. Avoid emotional escalation. Respond with precision. Action validates presence. It confirms that your calm replies are backed by tangible control, not hollow rhetoric. Authority becomes tangible, recognized by peers and adversaries alike. Step 6. Continuous adaptation. Authority is never static. Social dynamics shift, and those who rely on a single tactic will eventually lose influence. The elite practice continuous adaptation, adjusting responses, silence, and tactical interventions to match evolving threats. Monitor reactions carefully. Adjust archetypes of controlled replies based on context. Always remain slightly unpredictable, yet disciplined. Machiavelli's ultimate lesson is clear. Power is maintained, never assumed. Internal authority, once cultivated and reinforced, protects against erasure, compels respect, and elevates you above those who react impulsively or anxiously. Chapter 6. Identity, Death, and Replacement. Becoming untouchable. By now, you've learned the mechanisms of social erasure, the power of controlled replies, and the enforcement of internal authority. The final step in mastering influence is identity transformation. You must destroy the old, reactive, approval-seeking self and replace it with a persona that naturally commands respect, fear, and deference. This is not about arrogance or showmanship. It is about strategic detachment from weakness, creating a version of yourself that others instinctively recognize as untouchable. Identity death is not metaphorical. It is a deliberate psychological operation that rewires how the world perceives you. Step 1. Recognize the obsolete self. The first stage is brutal honesty. Identify all aspects of your current identity that invite erasure. Over-explaining or justifying actions. Seeking validation or approval. Reacting impulsively to conflict. Attempting to please at the expense of authority. Every behavior that diminishes your presence or signals insecurity is a remnant of a weaker self. Acknowledge it without shame. Weakness is not a moral failing. It is a strategic liability in the hierarchy of power. Step 2. Symbolic death. Next, create a symbolic rupture from your old identity. This is a psychological reset. Eliminate patterns of approval seeking. Cut attachments to validation-driven habits. Reframe past failures as learning exercises rather than identity markers. By mentally severing ties with your previous reactive self, you free space for a disciplined, untouchable identity. This step is uncomfortable because it involves letting go of ingrained social conditioning, but discomfort is the gateway to dominance. Step 3. Construct the untouchable persona. The replacement identity embodies control, calm, and strategic detachment. Traits of this new persona include silent dominance. You do not compete for attention, it comes to you. Calculated calm. Every reaction is measured, deliberate, and chilling in precision. Predictable, unpredictable. You are consistent in discipline, yet unpredictable enough to unsettle others. Boundary enforcement. No one crosses limits without consequences, subtle or otherwise. This persona is not performative. It is a lived reality, a disciplined way of being that others subconsciously recognize as higher order. Step 4. Behavioral realignment. To fully embody the untouchable self, your behaviors must perfectly align with your internal authority. Speak with measured brevity. Silence is often more power than words. Choose timing with surgical precision. Prioritize influence over friendship, strategy over approval. Allow others' actions to confirm your dominance subtly.
Consistency between internal mindset and external expression makes your authority irrefutable. People will respond automatically to your presence, aligning with your expectations even without instruction. Step 5. Psychological shielding. Becoming untouchable requires immunity to external judgment. Cultivate psychological detachment. Opinions of others no longer control emotional state. Criticism is evaluated strategically, not emotionally. You internalize your own authority. Validation is no longer external. This detachment prevents old patterns from resurfacing. Social erasure becomes impossible because the untouchable self cannot be influenced or manipulated. Step 6. In final integration. Finally, integrate all previous chapters' lessons. Controlled replies terminate conflict. Internal authority enforces recalibration. Silence and observation maintain dominance. Your old identity dies quietly, leaving a self that is respected, feared, and unassailable. You no longer react to the world reacts to you. Machiavelli would call this the apex of social strategy, untouchable influence through disciplined presence. Those who reach this state exist in a realm above social manipulation, above erasure, above casual judgment. They are no longer participants, they are architects,